Go for broke!
So the next thing is, now this one is totally our personal. Yep, we have our top games of 2014. We have our lists. Now our list. Now I don't know. You guys ordered them like particularly. Like for me, they're in no particular order.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I have them numbered 10 through 1. You know, but they're not necessarily. Might be. It may not necessarily be that I enjoy that game more than the other. But I just put them in that order.
Right.
I don't know about you guys, but that's how I did it. Now, you know what? Yeah, Jeff, go first.
All right.
I just want to hear it because you said you switched some things before we started recording.
Yes.
So I want to hear what you switched here.
All right. This is my top 10 list for 2014. Number 10 is a highly underrated indie JRPG styled title by the name of Pure Solar and the Great Architects. Granted, this game was originally released on Steam PC/Mac Steam Play for 2010, 2011, around that range. It was just recently re-released this year as Pure Solar HD for the current and last gen consoles. And I gotta tell you, as an RPG that is a love letter to not only Sega styled RPGs for this, like basically for the Genesis, but also 16-bit RPGs in general, it is one of the best RPGs I played in a very long time, and I would highly recommend anyone picking it up if they had a chance to. Number 9 is also another underrated title, and ironically enough, we were just talking about this particular company earlier in this episode of Riff Table Arcade, and that is the swan song for the now defunct Airtight Games, Murdered Soul Suspect. Now, I understand that it was very short. I understand it was a AA budget title. But besides those two things, it was one of the best narrative-drawn story games I've played this year. Okay, there wasn't action, but it had a equivalent to saying you actually feel like a detective piecing evidence and, looking the crime scene just like it was equivalent to that of the component that you saw in LA Noire. They got that part right, and like I said, the narrative was very good. Unlike with Watch Dogs, with it taking place in Salem, Mass, it wasn't fully a recreation of Salem, but it damn well felt actually like Salem, Massachusetts. Unlike the virtual representation of Chicago in Watch Dogs.
I know,
yes,
right?
that's how much Ubisoft screwed up. Number 8, Bayonetta 2. And let me just say this right now. If there's any people that are pissed that I gave it the number 8 spot, A, that does not make it a bad game. B, I put it in the list. And C, you people never, please. It is one of the best games I played this year, and granted, it's a niche, not only a niche franchise, but at least a very small type of fan base in regards to that type of action game style. I think it's one of the best games that Platinum's done in years. I think this is even better than the first one.
Oh yeah. And even though it's higher on my list, but I do agree with you, Jeff.
Numbers mean nothing on my list.
Right, I guess so. But Jeff,
implementation of the quick time events.
What happened, Jeff?
What?
We didn't quite hear you. You broke up.
Yeah. Well, like I can say about Bayonetta 2 is that one of the things that they did perfectly fine and they implemented way better in this game compared to the original was the quick time events, because I can't tell you how many times I died during the first game in regards to the quick time events alone. The soundtrack's better, the overall look and feel of the game's better, and honestly, I like the design of Bayonetta herself, unlike I did in Bayonetta 1. And I'm not being disrespectful to Platinum Games, but with the design of Bayonetta herself in the first game, to me, she just looked like a generic anime character. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
However, Bayonetta 2, it felt like, okay, they actually took their time to design a better overall female protagonist.
Oh, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Number 7. Granted, it's another Nintendo exclusive, but it's exclusive that is not only phenomenal, but I think it honestly outshines their mascot's IP itself, Mario, and that is Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. One of my main issues with the main Mario games in regards to both 3D World, 3D Land, and also with New Super Mario Bros. Series, along with the recent release on Wii U for its launch title,
Okay.
is that the first time you play it is so simplistic that doesn't have the difficulty that we grew up with as kids. You always have to wait until the special world or special stages to get the difficult side of Mario like we used to know. Donkey Kong, on the other hand? Oh no! Oh no! It actually has a difficulty curve right at the start of the game.
And it continues to bump up even more.
Exactly. That's one thing that I wish the Mario games... I'm just throwing it out there, but that's one thing I wish the future Mario games would have. But that being said, I think it's one of the best-looking games on the Wii U. It's one of my favorite soundtracks, and I cannot tell you how excited I was when I heard back at E3 2013. The only thing that saved Nintendo for me that year was the announcement of the original composers of the DKC trilogy, David Wise, coming back to compose the soundtrack for this game. And I gotta tell you, this is some of his best work in years.
Oh, definitely.
That soundtrack.
Oh God,
man, that's amazing.
I get mesmerized every time when I hear that soundtrack.
I remember I was playing it in front of my parents. My parents were like, "Man, that sounds good." I'm like, "I know."
And then the only thing that doesn't sound good is the voice of Donkey Kong, like your mother brought up.
She does not like his voice for nothing.
But yeah, but it's sad, but kind of funny at the same time too. That Donkey Kong is a better platformer, especially Tropical Freeze being a better platformer than majority of their most recent releases from the Mario franchise. But nevertheless, great job, Retro. I hope you do something different and not something that the fans want, i.e. Metroid Prime, please.
Or make a sequel to Donkey Kong 64.
That too. I would rather have that than Metroid Prime 4.
Mm-hmm.
But going to another exclusive, but from a different publisher. Number 6, Sunset Overdrive.
By Insomniac, right?
Yep. Now, a lot of people have said, "Oh, it looks too colorful. Oh, it looks."
Oh, jeez.
They always say, looks can be deceiving. Yes, this is one of his games. It has the proper tone of humor. It has a proper tone of color, especially for a Microsoft exclusive.
Oh yeah.
An overall fun game. I mean, people don't realize this, but this was being done by the same team that did Resistance and Ratchet and Clank. So you already have a great solidified team right there to make a great platform. Or platform/action game, and they did.
I kind of
shooting.
Just from looking at Sunset Overdrive, I kind of got a Jet Set Radio vibe just from looking at it a little bit.
Yeah, it really has that. It really has the art style / overall tone of Jet Set Radio. It has the fun factor of Tony Hawk mixing it there with the trick style in there, and it has the proper humor that you've seen from, like I just mentioned, with Ratchet and Clank.
We'll put it this way. It's a game that's set in a serious setting, but it's one of those games where it doesn't take itself seriously.
Exactly, yes. Now, getting on to number 5, and Jerry, you're going to be happy about this one, because I included it in my list. An underrated title that is a Vita exclusive.
PS4 and Vita.
Well, yeah. Thank you. Velocity 2 Times. Velocity 2 Times, I gotta tell you, it may be a clone of Metroid, but it's one of the best Metroid clones I've played in a very long time. And when I mean Metroid clones, I'm not saying like clones that are Spider-Man Metroid, but take it to a different spin, kind of like how, like what Drinkbox did with Rocket Melee, you know what I mean? Or the original Konami team did with the EGA era Castlevania titles. No, I'm saying that you can tell that these people are clearly fans of Metroid with the tone, the style. You know, I forget who the team did with this game, but if they weren't, I don't know if they're tied with Sony, but they weren't. I would love to see this team do the 3DS version of the new Metroid game, in all honesty. Number 4. Infamous. And you
Second
people may
Son?
be thinking, no. Infamous First Light.
Oh, the DLC.
Yes. Now, Now, people are going to be asking why I'm going with First Light when it's just a prelude to the main title and just DLC. Here's the thing. I loved the tone of First Light. I liked the character more of Fetch than I did with Delsin Rowe. Like, he wasn't a total douche compared to, say... here's the thing. Compared to the 3 protagonists, my least favorite is Delsin. I cannot stand him as a character. I like Fetch and who was the protagonist of the first 2 games?
Cole McGrath.
Oh, thank you. I like those 2 more than I did Alfred Delsin. But I just like the fact with, you know, if there's one thing I like about First Light, and it's funny because you get this power too equally in Second Son, the main game. But if there's one thing that it shows, and I wish WB would do, I wish there would be a Flash game from them in the near future, because it shows that. Well, because here's the thing, because you know, in some ways, Fetch is a speedster because of her power. And it just shows that, you know, that type of power being used properly in a superhero-centric game can be utilized wonderfully. So I would love to see that in the future. But besides that, I like that, you know, Sucker Punch not only did something different, but they took a chance on doing a game that has a female protagonist, and it did so well because she was a female character that was written properly.
When I did that, there to you, Jeff, I was actually in agreement with you, because that, you know, just based on that aspect alone about First Light with the power that the female lead that she has is like, you know, that actually could work for a Flash game.
Yep.
Well, not a Adobe Flash game, but the DC character Flash.
Yeah, the Flash. Yes, I know what you're talking about. Don't worry.
Barry Allen.
Yep. Number 3, and this is funny because when we were talking about worst publishers, we were kind of bashing this publisher, yet equally praising them for their purchase of Atlas last year. But it is nonetheless number 3, Alien Isolation.
Oh, okay.
Now, I know a lot of people did not want to get this game at launch because of what happened 2 years ago. And yes, it's been 2 years ago, think about that. With the atrocious title, Alien Colonial Marines. Now, let me clarify. I don't think it's a bad game. It's a bad game because it uses the Alien IP. If it was just a brand new IP itself, people just look at it as a AA title that tries to go back to old school mechanics of first-person shooters, and it would have been fine. But since it used the Aliens IP, it's one of the worst games. And it is because people tend to forget it was canon to the mythos. So yeah, think about that. Thanks,
okay.
Fox. Thanks, Fox. But in regards to Alien Isolation, just like, ironically enough, of the game I just talked about, thankfully, at least this game is considered canon as well.
How many facehuggers did you have to deal with in that game?
Oh, jeez.
Oh gosh, those things give me nightmares.
Yeah.
They're like goats with those beady eyes that they have, and they just stare at you, and they're like, meh.
Yep. Yep. But here's the thing, that I was never a big fan of Aliens, because what it did with the Xenomorph, it took a single it took a single monster and made him into sort of a bullet sponge. He wasn't terrifying anymore. Whereas with Alien, he was terrifying because it felt like he was an unstoppable killing machine. This is why I loved Alien Isolation. This, granted, it had the same template as, say, like Outlast, the recent first-person perspective-based horror titles that we've seen out of the last couple years. This is the game that got the template right. Not only in regards to gameplay, in regards to story, in regards to the look and feel. Like, this is one of the most authentic titles I've seen in the Alien franchise in a very, very long time. This is one of the best horror titles I played this year, along with, I would say, an honorable mention in regards to The Evil Within. Number 2. Now, with my number 2 spot, I was deciding on which one I should include, Titanfall or this title. I went with this title because this title, unlike with Titanfall, which is a great game in its own equal right, this game is better because it finally did one thing that I wish modern first-person shooters did, and it married the components of both of a modern first-person shooter done right, along with the components we grew up with 20 years ago with the old school shooters that we grew up with. And that is Wolfenstein: The New Order. Now, if people don't know who Machine Games is, these are the former heads that came from Starbreeze. Yes, that's Starbreeze. The same Starbreeze that created not only The Darkness, but also one of the best high-end games ever created, which was Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay.
Okay.
This game had not only the proper feel in regards to gunplay, it had the proper feel in regards to tone. It had this weird vibe of not taking it seriously while also taking itself seriously at the same time in regards to narrative. It had a very good story. You actually felt for the characters, unlike majority of modern first-person shooters these days. And it has a phenomenal soundtrack by Mick Gordon. And my number 1, I alluded to this earlier, Dragon Age Inquisition. When I was talking about EA, when they released Dragon Age 2, and Kaus, this guy over here, he's a big a fan of this franchise as I am. When Dragon Age 2 game came out and we got it, we were both highly disappointed about this game. Not only disappointed, but disgusted, because I cannot tell you how many times I went to various warehouses and find out they were the same exact render. Like, that was the time when EA was Ubisoft lazy. Think about that. But from where we saw BioWare and EA from then to where we see both publisher and developer now is a blessing. It is something that I never imagined would see, because it has a proper gameplay style that would both please the original PC gamer fan base along with the console fan base. Something that I along with the PC community felt that they butchered in the first 2 games in regards to the conversion to the consoles. The new tactical camera they have works well. The story, while it's not the sharpest in regards to the trilogy, it is a way better title than, say, 2. I actually care about the characters, unlike 2. And funny enough, I'm not going to spoil it, but there are some characters that when they died from 2, I was like, okay, good, I'm glad they're gone. And the thing that surprised me the most, I don't know who the composer is for Dragon Age Inquisition, but whoever did the soundtrack for this game, oh my god. If there's one thing I disliked, I liked, to some degree, the compositions of Iron Zur from Dragon Age Origin and Dragon Age 2, to an extent. However, in regards to composition from Dragon Age Inquisition, I felt they finally hit the right tone in regards to score that the Dragon Age franchise needed. And in regards to honorable mentions for this one spot, it was either this or another underrated game that I want people to I want people to check out. That's Bound by Flame. Do not listen to the reviews from GameStop, IGN, and Game Trailers.
GameSpot, you mean?
Yeah, GameSpot, thank you. Well, GameStop, too, because I like to throw crap out of their mouths, too.
Well, of course.
But please don't listen to those sources. This is one of the best AA RPGs I played in a long time. And, Jerry, I think you can test that, too, because you played a game as well.
Yeah, it actually was good. It was kind of like Dark Souls like style. What I mean by that is how it's like action, but you have to think about every move you make.
Yes,
because they'll kill you.
And another game, it's not like you brought it up, just to clarify, with how Dark Souls 2 came out this year. A game that did a better job in the template of not only Dark Souls 2, but Dark Souls in general, was Lords of the Fallen. If you're looking for a AA/independent RPG from unknown developers that you want to check out, I would say go with those two choices because they are phenomenal games. And that is my list for 2014.
That was actually pretty solid list you got there, man.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm into it. Yeah.
Get over here!
So, what is yours?
Whose?
Double R.
Yeah, you.
Okay, so you're going last, Jerry?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I had to do some revisions to my top 10 list as well, but I would like to give an honorable mention first. And even though it's an old game, but I am glad to see it finally got a re-release that everybody has wanted for like 6 whole frickin' years after the original came out, re-released. And that is Suikoden 2 by Konami. It came out on the PlayStation Network last December, or just last month.
Yeah. And
my God, oh my gosh, I was like having nostalgia just oozing out of my eyes from playing the game over again. It is for those of you who have not played Suikoden game, who haven't even played a Suikoden game. Suikoden 2, in my eyes, is the best in the series. It is one of the most well-written, most fun, in terms of gameplay, and has one of the best soundtracks to a JRPG that you can ever possibly imagine. So I definitely wholeheartedly suggest to you guys that if you want a good JRPG that came out from like an older generation, definitely, and if you definitely have a PS3, go to the PlayStation Network right now and download that game for $9.99. It is worth it. And for those of you who live in Europe, you won't even have to wait much longer because that game's going to get a PSN re-release as well. So I definitely say that my good buddy Bad Gamer is probably going to be very excited when he downloads that day one.
No kidding.
Since he already got himself a physical copy of the PS1 disc at home, so now he can just buy the digital re-release for a cheaper price. But anyway, on to my top 10 list. So some of the games that I mentioned in this list are a couple of them are going to be repeats, but for most others, they are ones that did not appear on Jeff's list. So 8 out of 10 of them are actually ones that I chose that were different. So anyway, starting at number 10, this actually came from Concept. And no, it is not their collaboration with Tecmo Koei and Team Ninja on the awfully abysmal Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z. I could just say that game deserves to die and be burned to a fiery crisp. But no, it is the one where Concept actually teamed up with their longtime partner developer into Create, and that is Azure Striker Gunvolt.
Nice.
Azure Striker Gunvolt plays a lot like Mega Man, but it has its own revisions and own additions to the side-scrolling action formula that we've actually not seen in a Mega Man-esque type of game. You actually play as this guy by the name of, I think his name is Gunvolt. I guess that's why what his name is, based on the name of the character in the title. So you play as Gunvolt, a boy who has been enhanced with this sort of scientific power where he can manipulate lightning or electricity. And he, not only that, but he is a bounty hunter for hire, to where he's actually trying to stop this evil organization and save this girl from their own personal gain, or for what they were trying to do. But in the end, you actually find out some really odd twists and turns that actually occur within the game, and it just makes you have to go, set things right, kind of like what happens to games that have done that sort of trope back then. And I think that's been pretty common for Mega Man games as well. But for the most part, Azure Striker Gunvolt, it was one of the games that I bought last year through the eShop, the 3DS eShop, where it came from, mind you. It is one of the games that I had a lot of fun, just sit back, relax, and play something where there's just lots of action going on. So, yeah, for a game that's $14.99 on the eShop, Azure Striker Gunvolt is definitely a good purchase, or definitely a game that you need to pick up right now. If you're into Mega Man, or if you're just into side-scrolling action games, definitely give that a pickup. And Mr. Williams, did I hear you snicker when I was talking about the plot?
No.
Okay, I thought I heard somebody snickering. Okay, that's weird.
I was muted, so it wasn't me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind, because when I was talking about the story of how cliched it was, I thought I heard somebody just, it was like, really? Or just, sounded like the Duck Hunt dog in the background. If the Duck Hunt dog was in the background, I probably would get a Nintendo Zapper and shoot it in the chest. But anyway, on to number 9. This is, even though we have given a lot of crap to this company for being the worst company in 2014, there was actually a download game that actually was a really big surprise. And that is Child of Light.
I knew I forgot something included on my list too. Damn.
Child of Light was developed by Ubisoft Montreal, so it was actually developed by the Canadian branch of the French developer. And this game, it actually is a love letter to old turn-based RPGs like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, as well as the art style being a complete tribute to the still alive Yoshitaka Amano, who did the character designs for the Final Fantasy games from 1 to 6. But Child of Light actually has a charm that stands out on its own. It's basically a tale about a Romanian princess who was put to sleep unexpectedly through magic, where it transports her into this world that she has no recollection of, and she's trying to fight her way back to reunite with her father. But there's a bit more to it than just that. Not only is she going through that, but she's actually going through a coming-of-age type of tale, meaning that you're playing through like the era of where she was immature to where she grows more mature in character and actually can be brave to portrayal against the forces of darkness to get back to reality. It is definitely one of the best definitely one of the best stories that I've ever experienced. It's enough to make a man cry too, based on what is all going on. The characters are enjoyable, and the music is one of the most classic in my eyes. It's just that orchestrated instrumentation with how they portray the soundtrack. It's just like, oh gosh, that gives me goosebumps. But yeah, Child of Light, it, aside from it being a tribute to many JRPGs like Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and some of those other ones like Grandia, this is definitely one that those who enjoy JRPGs and RPGs in general need to pick up. And the game uses the UbiArt engine for its design. So yeah, definitely give it a shot. It is worth the money, and it's definitely worth your time if you want to play it. Even though it's on a bit of a short side, it is still worth it. All right, at number 8, Hyrule Warriors. This is the game where it makes me a believer that collaborations between companies can actually work to where they can actually make something very fun and very, even though the Warriors game's done by Tecmo Koei, they are mindless and repetitive, but they still have a charm to where they're actually fun. What they did with The Legend of Zelda, I'd say that was actually a pretty bold choice for a change-up, even though Hyrule Warriors is a spin-off game in that sense. Mm-hmm. Now, we all know the backstory where Tecmo Koei or Team Ninja wanted to do a traditional Zelda game with their own take, even though Nintendo said no. But I'd say that while it would have been nice to see a mainline Zelda game done from their own direction, I still say that Hyrule Warriors was still a different take that actually could work, that actually works on its own. Would I like to see like a proposed collaboration for a mainstream title actually work between Eiji Aonuma with Yosuke Hayashi and even that of Tecmo Koei? Then yeah, I would definitely like to see that. But Hyrule Warriors, it plays out exactly like the Warrior series, Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors, but it's actually set in the land of Hyrule, and it actually has the characters that we come to know and love, like Link, Impa, Zelda, Sheik, even Darunia, or characters from both Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, and even Skyward Sword. So, yes, characters like Darunia, Ruto, even Midna, Agatha, the Bug Princess, which I'm really surprised, a lot of people were really surprised that she's a playable character, and even Fi from Skyward Sword, although they want to call her Fi in that game, but I still call her Fi, because it actually sounds more appropriate. Mm-hmm. But it's just the campaign that you play as, playing as the heroes at first, but then playing a little bit of the dark, the Forces of Darkness, which consist of Ganondorf, Girahim from Skyward Sword, and Zant from Twilight Princess. I actually, it's just like playing all these different characters with all the different elemental attributes that they have, as well as the growth system for them to grow in their strength and stats for each character, as well as various other things. It is one of the games where it's just like, and even including the special Land of Hyrule mode or whatever, that 8-bit mode where you're playing every section of the map in the original Legend of Zelda with their own objectives in Hyrule Warriors. This is like the first time where I actually really have enjoyed a spin-off game in the Zelda franchise for quite a long time. Quite a long time. So, and I have the Hero Hyrule pack, or the season pass as you would call it, on my Wii U. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to playing more of Hyrule Warriors, and yeah, Hyrule Warriors is going to be getting a lot of replay value from me in the coming months. Okay, so at number 7. Oh, and by the way, Hyrule Warriors got a pretty awesome, pretty rockin' soundtrack too. I mean, rock renditions of some of the classic themes from the Zelda series. Yeah, pretty awesome. Okay, number 7. No-brainer, Super Smash Bros. For 3DS and Wii U, even though they are technically 2 games, but they still have the name Super Smash Bros. Now, a lot of people might be asking me, why did I put that low on the list? Well, even though I do enjoy Smash Bros., there were some others that I actually enjoyed more. I mean, it's not to say the same that Smash Bros. I'm not saying that Smash Bros. Is a bad game. No, that's not true at all. I think it's a phenomenal game with what they did with the 4th iteration for both 3DS and Wii U, but there were others that really piqued my interest. But for Smash Brothers for itself, the 3DS, for being the little brother piece, it was actually fine for what it is, especially with what all you can do with all the limitations that it had in terms of like content and stuff. But when it came to the Wii U version, oh my god, that that game is massive. More massive than any other iteration of Smash Brothers we have seen today. We can actually see that Masahiro Sakurai was definitely putting in all the time and effort and making sure that the Wii U version was actually the more packed in terms of content, game modes, and even online play, and just a plethora of other things in general. And the game that introduced the Amiibo lineup. So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with both versions. So yeah, Super Smash Brothers for 3DS and Wii U, I definitely think that game, helped improve the Wii U more, along with the others that released right before that. That came out in 2014, which I will mention, some of the others. And I already talked about Hyrule Warriors, and that was also a good helper, or a good help to, improve the Wii U's, sales and install base and such to an extent. But Super Smash Brothers, it's actually doing a pretty phenomenal job. Number 6. This is the second game that, the second game that is actually from a third party. And I think Jerry and Jeff will actually be in pretty good shock and awe when I say this. But that game is Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor.
Mm-hmm. It's a good game, though.
Yeah, really, really violent, scary, and pretty gory game. But Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, this is like Lord of the Rings meets Assassin's Creed. And
Batman.
And Batman, too. Yeah, it's like the Arkham games from Batman. Yes, definitely. It's like all those combined and making a really good game that actually shows a lot of quality in its delivery. And just from looking at the game itself, yeah, it is a very quality-filled game. And I'm actually very surprised that Monolith Productions actually came up with something like that. And what were some of the games that Monolith Productions did in the past? What were some of the games that they made? Do you guys remember?
Yes, I do. They were the developers for No One Lives Forever.
No One Lives Forever.
Wow.
They did Blood.
Okay.
Yes, that's how old I am, listeners.
Because whenever I think of Monolith, I think of Monolith Soft, the creator.
I know. I was gonna say Xenosaga. Like, wait, no, that's a different Monolith.
No, but
Condemned.
Oh yes, Condemned. Oh, definitely. The Condemned games, yeah. I remember them too. That was another scary game too. It was a survival horror. But Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, it does a lot of things different that we have not seen in Batman or in Assassin's Creed, excuse me. One of the things that actually made the game really fun, in my eyes, was the Nemesis system that they introduced. Basically, yes. you pinpoint a target on one of the orc generals or whatever, and you can pretty much fight them and kill them right on the spot, or they could retreat and they can cause discord amongst themselves to where others want to try and take their place. So that adds a lot of replay value and non-linearity to the overall game in itself. And even the whole thing where you are playing as Talion, where he has, even though he's technically dead, but he came back to life, using both perspectives of how he plays throughout the whole game, I actually thought that was also a very nice touch. Just kind of think of it like the detective vision with the whole thing with the spirit soul of the kings of the dead or whatever helping him in the gameplay. But that was another thing that I thought added to the experience as well. So, and who doesn't love a good fantasy game to where you can actually just go around and just hacking and slashing orcs just to defeat them for what they did to your family and before the events of Lord of the Rings. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a lot of fun, and I'm definitely going to give it some more replay because I still need to beat the end of the game, and I'm really surprised how the game. And one other thing I like to mention too, with what the game did right, is how it managed to blend in both the universe, or blend in the Middle-earth universe as how J.R.R. Tolkien envisioned it, as well as taking elements from the Peter Jackson films. Mm-hmm. Like, especially when it came to Gollum appearing in the game. But yeah, Shadow of Mordor, just from looking at that game itself, I can definitely declare that was probably the first game where it's truly considered a next generation game. All right, number 5. Jeff already mentioned this one. This is one of the games that he mentioned that I am in complete agreement with. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it in general, but from what he said, I do agree with what he says about how well of a game that is in comparison to Donkey Kong Country Returns. Which Donkey Kong Country Returns I actually did like, but when playing Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, I've actually enjoyed it quite more. I know that the levels were lengthened out a bit more, so because there were a lot less worlds to explore this time around, but I think it only added well to the overall delivery in terms of the gameplay from beginning to end. And the instance where you can actually use different Kongs to ride on the back of Donkey Kong, aside from just Diddy Kong, that only helped improve more of traversing the levels better, because if you use Diddy Kong, you can actually hover over large gaps like what he could do in Donkey Kong Country Returns. But if you use Dixie Kong, she can actually propel her way up to platforms that Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong couldn't reach on foot. Or you could pretty much take the Cranky Kong route and be like Scrooge McDuck and pogo bouncing on hazards, as well as getting up to higher platforms like Dixie Kong. And the music, oh god, very beautiful. Definitely some of David Wise's best work. And other than that, I really don't have anything else to say. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, I will definitely say, out of recent, I've actually been enjoying the Donkey Kong Country series far more than I have with the Mario games as of late. I mean, even though Super Mario Galaxy 2 was the last good Mario game that I've enjoyed, but it seems like Donkey Kong has just been making somewhat of a comeback for me to really enjoy it, the series in all of its glory once again. Number 4, Mario Kart 8. Now, this game I've actually enjoyed quite more than Super Smash Bros. For 3DS and Wii U, because this game I felt, and a lot of people felt, was actually the first true next-generation experience that Nintendo brought to themselves for the Wii U. And just playing just those different courses, as well as the gimmick of anti-gravity on the tracks, which pays more of an homage to F-Zero than it does to Mario Kart. That was a unique approach for the Mario Kart 8 this time around. And yeah, I know a lot of people say they want a new F-Zero because of Nintendo taking this approach, and yeah, I do too. But you know, for itself, Mario Kart 8 for what it is, it really it's just phenomenal. And even the character roster is phenomenal. The soundtrack is still just as good as the other instrumentations that this series has done ever since Mario Kart DS. And just the tracks, they're very big, full of detail, rich with color, and just very wacky and zany. And the truth is that there's more content coming for Mario Kart 8 down the future, which we act with in the form of 2 DLC packs. One just released in November, where it included 4 extra tracks, as well as the character Link from The Legend of Zelda. But we also got Cap Mario and Tanuki Mario from Super Mario 3D Land and 3D World. But there is a second DLC pack that's going to have some more. That's going to have 8 more tracks to it as well. So think of like getting another game out of Mario Kart instead of just one full one. You're getting like 2 full games in one package right there because of them having, that many courses to play throughout the game. And not only that, but the characters of, I think, Isabelle from Animal Crossing New Leaf, as well. I want to say Tom Nook or Tommy Rossetti, but I could be mistaken. No, Villager. That's what it is. Yeah, Villager's going to be the next character next to Isabelle, but it's also going to include Dry Bones Bowser. So, yeah, we're going to get some more content coming from that down the road. So, definitely Mario Kart 8 is a, really great racing game that I enjoyed immensely.
I agree. The game is good, but if there's one thing I think that the inclusion of the DLC cast for the roster, I wanted this is indicating that the future of the Mario Kart series is going to slowly transform into a more Nintendo, like a whole Nintendo thing instead of just Mario exclusive characters. You know what I mean? Like, instead of Mario Kart, it's going to be now known as Nintendo All-Stars Racing. You know what I mean?
I would definitely like to see that being the next big Nintendo character collaboration outside of Smash Brothers.
It'll be the perfect. It'll make sense for an evolution to the Mario Kart franchise. To be honest,
I would say if Nintendo does another DLC pack for Mario Kart 8, they definitely need to include Captain Falcon in there.
not only Falcon but also Samus.
Yes, that too. Okay, number 3. This one is actually a big surprise, and it's probably the only, well, the other handheld game that's on my list, aside from Super Smash Bros. For 3DS and Azure Striker Gunvolt, but that is Bravely Default by Silicon Studios and Square Enix, which was published by Nintendo in the West. Bravely Default is a love letter to the fans of the old Final Fantasy franchise, those who enjoyed the first 6 games in the series, when it comes to the overall fantasy settings and just the gameplay mechanics of changing jobs and, you know, having its own unique mechanics not done anywhere else. The battle system is probably one of the best battle systems to a turn-based RPG. They have the elements or the new mechanics of the Brave and Default system. If you take if you use the Brave mechanics, you can actually utilize numerous strikes after building up your default mechanics, which the default mechanics are actually taking turns, so that way you can actually, you know, build up more attacks within a single turn, so that way you can actually input more tactics into the overall battles. That was something I actually that I adored quite heavily. The soundtrack is also very phenomenal. One of the most beautiful soundtracks I've ever heard to a 3DS game. And it's just, I really get lost just like listening to either the sound of the flute or the ocarina that plays in that overworld map theme at the beginning. It's just like, oh man, I really, really wish that all of us could be embraced in worlds like this that have that, you know, that type of feeling when it comes to the themes and the, you know, the characters and stuff. Which, speaking of which, the characters are actually very likable, and the story is very, very compelling. And I'm not going to say any more into this, but if any of you who are really looking for a good RPG to take with you on the go, aside from ones that I mentioned, but you want one that's brand new, then look no further with Bravely Default. You are really missing out on a really good treat. And I definitely say it's the best Final Fantasy game in a long, long time, despite it not being called Final Fantasy. Even though there are elements from Final Fantasy in that game, I still consider it to be the best Final Fantasy game ever put out in a long time.
I'll hardly agree with that statement.
Mm-hmm. Number 2, and Jeff already mentioned this one, the one that was low on his list, but it was higher on my list, Bayonetta 2. Now, I'm not going to, like with Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, I'm not going to talk about it that much, but I will say it is definitely one of the most prettiest games visual-wise, as well as one of the most intense action games that I've ever played. And I definitely say that it completely one-ups the original Bayonetta on all fronts. Not saying that the original Bayonetta was a bad game. No, it was a great game, but it just seems like Bayonetta 2 just actually did, it did a lot more than just what the original established. It actually made the mechanics more streamlined. It actually made the combat more fluid, and it actually made the mechanics, more intuitive. I have not had that much fun playing a hack and slash game in quite a long time, and I think this coming out from both Nintendo and Platinum Games had to be one of the greatest deliveries or one of the greatest releases that we've had coming from a first-party publisher and a third-party developer in quite a long time. And I really do hope that Nintendo takes this approach with other third-party developers, as well as working again with Platinum Games in the future. So yeah, Bayonetta 2, definitely. If I were to say like a big budget release game that's like maybe AA or in between AA and AAA, then yeah, Bayonetta 2, it would be that game for me. But I've saved the best to last. And this one is actually from an independent developer. My number one game of the year for 2014 is none other than Yacht Club Games' own Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight is developed by former members of WayForward Technologies, and they pretty much became their own company to work on their own content. And their first project, with being backed up by a successful Kickstarter campaign, just gave me confidence that this was actually going to be an independent game that would really, really show. Shovel Knight is like Mega Man, but it goes for more of a medieval approach. And what's even fun and what's even more awesome is that the game actually goes for more of an 8-bit presentation, meaning it goes for more of the presentation of what games like the NES and the Sega Master System were capable of. And I really like that, because what Shovel Knight did, it actually is like going back to the tradition of what actually made games in the old days really fun to play, where it had simple but fun mechanics, hard difficulty, secrets that you can find, and just, a lot of things that actually made the game easily understood how to play, instead of having to read like 30 blocks of text. It's not like you have a lot of games that are shoving tutorials down your throat. No, it's not like that. It's one of those games where you just get into it and you're like, hey, I'm in the action. I know what to do. And a lot of the mechanics that the game does that we haven't seen for side-scrolling action games, it's very, 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 they add more to the overall experience in my eyes. I mean, think of the game like Mega Man meets Dark Souls, meaning that you're going through a side-scrolling action game, but you're going through various obstacles and fighting against many enemies, where some of them even have a very steep learning curve added to them, especially when it comes to the harder difficulty. Oh my god, the harder difficulty was, don't even get me started on that. But Shovel Knight, and even the soundtrack which was a collaboration between Jake Kaufman, who is named Vert online and even through the gaming industry, as well as Mega Man composer Manami Matsume, who worked on the music for the first Mega Man, as well as Mega Man 10, and even on the upcoming Mighty Number 9. The soundtrack, the 8-bit rendition of the soundtrack, Shovel Knight, has to be one of the most listened to soundtracks on my computer throughout the whole year. And I'm not going to say anything else. I'm not going to mention any more about Shovel Knight, but I will just say this. Shovel Knight itself, it is a masterpiece of an indie game, and it is one that's going to get a lot of replay value, and I definitely wholeheartedly want you guys to pick it up right now, today, if you're missing out on a lot of great stuff. Shovel Knight is an all-around winner, and it is on the top spot for my 2014 Game of the Year, period.